who did you have to become to get where you are?
Yo soy Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria.
I have this quote, only those who risk are free. I was like, why the hell would Luz for telling me that? Alrighty, guys, welcome to the Cashflow Cartel podcast, where we share our stories about entrepreneurship and whatever's on our hearts and minds. I am with Janelle Baez. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I come from media background. I'm Cuban Lebanese. I was a news anchor for about 1.5 years. I also was the VPO of a news and radio station. I was born and raised in Miami, and I am a conservative.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
So what made you go into media? Like, what were you doing before?
So I come from a family of healthcare. There are like doctors, CEOs of hospitals, administration for hospitals. But growing up, I was always in the public eye. Like I was in public speaking, debate. I was in drama. I was a junior thespian, so I would write plays and monologues, and then I'd go to competitions and I would win these competitions. So I knew I was very talented in that. But once I graduated high school, my parents were like, get serious. I don't know if everybody knows Spanish on here, but they would say like, los artistas se mueren de hambre. So like study something for real. Go into healthcare. So naturally, because my family was already in healthcare, I just naturally went in on that path also. So I became a director of marketing and communications. I mastered in communications PR, and I was in healthcare prior to that. And then one day out of nowhere, I'm in my office, the office I always wanted, in the hospital that I always wanted to work at, and I was just miserable. I didn't like what I was doing, and I didn't feel fulfilled. And I would cry almost every day because I was like, what am I doing with my life? And everybody around me, they would give me flattery, which is one of the things that Patrick Bet-David talks about in his book, his new book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. The people surrounding me would tell me, but you're so lucky. You get such a great salary. Everybody would love to have the job that you have at the age that you have. And, you're so lucky because everybody, but I would deep down have a knowing like, okay, I am very fortunate because we always have to recognize and acknowledge that we're blessed. But is it truly what I was born to do? So one day I just quit. That same day, I just got up. I wrote a resignation letter, turned it into my CEO, and I went back to school for media. And right after graduation, a TV station called me, luckily, thank God, and the interview was for a cameraman position. But I didn't care because I was like, I'll do anything to get into media. I don't care. Like, I'll humble myself, And right when the interview ended, the CEO of the station, she said, no, you're not going to be the cameraman. You're going to be the VPO. Yeah, so that's how that transpired. And then 3 months into me being the VPO, I opened up a political sector where my CEO was like, okay, now that you opened up the political sector, you're going to do the news anchoring and the articulation for the programming. And that's how it happened.
So what was it about media that you were drawn to, though?
I've always been a very vocal person. I mean, hence the fact that I was in drama and debate and public speaking growing up.
Yeah.
But I really like connecting to audiences, and I like to see people's reaction. I like them to see how pensive they are when I share a message, right? Because I like to provoke, thought-provoking questions to themselves. I like, people to have that liberation, that freedom to do introspection and ask certain questions like, why is this like this? Should I be doing this? Right? It's a very stoic way of living, but ultimately it's like the main thing that takes you to your true fulfillment, to your true purpose, and to society, like how it should function.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so where are you at right now, and what are some projects that you're currently working on?
So I did leave mainstream media because I want to do my own thing. Never before has, there's been the opportunity to be your own leader and the leader of others without having to do it through a big corporation. But I also have my own charity foundation for children, which I just started 3 months ago. It requires a lot of work, and I'm just in the beginning phases of it. I need to raise capital and funding for it. But it's another dream project and passion that I've always had. I love children, and more than ever, children are in need of mental health and education. You
I
know,
agree.
if we've noticed anything and if we've studied any journals or, you know, any data, is that it's declining. You know, children's intelligence, it's not that their intelligence is declining because intelligence has evolved because of technology, but the way that the foundation of intelligence in children has declined drastically. Children aren't doing the same in tests. You know, they're more focused on, and their parents play a big part of that also. They're more focused on technology and social media, and that impacts a lot of the intelligence in children.
I think the public school system has a big, you know, cause and effect with the intelligence of, you know, children nowadays as well. You know,
In what way? What do you think? How?
I think they're not teaching, you know, actual skills like credit, financial literacy. You know, how taxes work. You know, I had to figure out all that stuff after, and I
Same.
just did it. You know, you just figure it out once you're just thrown out there. So I think if we had a basis and we were, you know, taught those things beforehand, before we were thrown out into the open, we would have a better grasp on things. But I also feel like the public school system and even, you know, colleges are designed to keep you in an echo chamber and keep you at a certain level to where you're just constantly relying.
Right.
And you're
They're
on
educating
the
you to be an employee,
Exactly.
not so much an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do agree with that as well. You know, and that's one of the things that so many podcasters they discuss. But all in all, I mean, you're not going to teach, like my foundation teaches more to elementary and middle school students. All in all, you need a foundation of something. So I do think that the public school system, even the private school system, they need to adjust a lot actually.
Yeah.
The curriculum, and they probably should be educating more on how to do taxes and how to run your own business. But then imagine what would happen there if they did that.
I know there's a playing devil's advocate, then, you know, we wouldn't have the people and employees that we would hire.
Right,
You know?
right. And you know what? Because there is a balance in life overall. You know, nature has a balance of not everybody can be highly articulate. Not everybody can be an artist. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur, right? So you are going to need a population or a certain percentage of people that can work a normal 9 to 5, that can work in a factory or can work in a store or in a restaurant, because that is needed. If not, society would not function. So we have to also be very careful as to saying, like, everybody needs to learn how to be an entrepreneur, because if we all have our own business, you're creating a huge imbalance in society as well.
I agree with that. I think money management and financial literacy is definitely one of the top things that need to be taught, because, you know, say you work a 9 to 5, you still need to learn how to manage your money.
Absolutely.
And how to be financially literate to where you're not living paycheck to paycheck in a lot of consumer debt. And I think we're in the trillions now, like in today's day and age. And I think we could resolve that with just having that education before we were actually, you know, sent off to go work and do whatever.
Yeah, I think that they should maybe give that as an option, as an elective, so that people actually have the choice to be like, you know what, I don't want to do ROTC because I'm never going to go to the military. I want to learn about accounting. I want to learn about finances, and then have those electives, right? Which I'm not, I don't even know if nowadays they're offering those types of elections, but I know that when I was in school, they weren't. So that's why I was always in ROTC. It was like, you know, working out and easy, and, you know, but maybe that should be an option to at least have it as an elective.
I think, what was it, Vivek Ramaswamy said that, like, he would implement something to where every citizen would serve like 2 years in the military. What kind of effect do you think that would have on our nation?
Well, I served ROTC. I did ROTC for about 3 years, and I'm not the best person to ask because I was not, I didn't apply everything that they were trying to teach me, right? But because I was always a very social person, and, you know, I was pretty popular, the instructors, or like the sergeant, the first sergeant, they always had a liking to me. But I wouldn't really dress out. you know, when you're supposed to wear your uniform, you know, when
Right.
they would tell me to drop down and give me, because I was also a very independent thinker,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I just knew that if I got good grades on the exams, I could pass, you know, even though I wouldn't dress out and, you know, comply to every little thing that they told me. I will tell you this, however, the people that do take it serious, usually they are high performers and achievers. I am a high performer and achiever, just in different ways. So I can't say that it'll apply to everyone. It varies because everybody's so different.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different type of intelligence, you know, a different type of physical capacity. But I think it would actually be advantageous, because there is one thing that I will tell you. When you have to be somewhere at a certain time and there are consequences for not being there at that time or not doing something, it teaches you credibility, and it teaches you to you know, be a man of your word or a woman of your word, you know, and that is highly impactful in a household, you as a person in society, at a job, in a relationship, anywhere. Not only that, but you learn certain values that the military has, like, you know, being a man of the family, you know, and I don't want to just exclude women from this, because women are in the military as well. But I'm very about gender roles, because I don't believe that women should be like men and men should be like women.
Of course.
You know,
yeah.
but I do think that any guy that takes up ROTC or a certain military course, or, you know, contributes to that, has a different way of thinking and being. Absolutely.
I think, yeah, the accountability and the discipline required through that is what we need more of in today's society, for sure.
Yes. Have you ever been part of the military or contributed to any type of military?
So my family, my grandfather was in Special Forces Vietnam, and
Okay.
he had, you know, told me a lot of crazy stories about that and his experience there. I had a lot of family members in the military. I personally didn't join the military because I didn't believe in the politics behind it. I have the utmost respect for everyone that enlists, and I would gladly serve my country and die for my country. But I did not like the political
Agenda?
agenda behind certain things that we did, you know, 9/11 and the whole Middle East situation, the weapons of mass destruction, and then there were no weapons of mass destruction. Not to say that we didn't, you know, get rid of any bad guys and make certain places a little bit better around the world, but I just didn't want to be a political pawn. I would rather serve my country here if, God forbid, something were to happen.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that also makes this country the best country to live in, because there's so many countries that you are forced to go into the military. You're obligated to do minimum a year or 2 years. You know, my father had to go into the military. My aunt had to go into the military. They're from Cuba. It's communist countries, they're enforced, you know, to do that. So the fact that you are not obligated to do that in this country speaks volumes about, you know, our choices. But I do agree with you on that. I lived in Germany for a year on a military base because I was married to somebody in the military, and they would have to wake up at 4 a.m. just to go run outside in like 13 below zero weather, you know. But the way that that structures your mind, the way that it just completely redesigns your mindset is incredible, because now you're being set up to perform differently in everything. Like the tenacity that it gives you and the strength it gives you, and the capacity to be able to problem solve also. You know, when you are in a state of comfort, when you face any adversity, it's going to be a lot more challenging for you to find solutions, because you've never been outside of a place of comfort, so you don't know how to react in a moment where there's chaos, right? The military prepares you for that at a very grand scale, you know. But I do agree with you that there are certain political agendas that, you know, they utilize our men and our women for their benefit, things that we not know of. Not all the time is being in the military so advantageous, especially when there's war, because it's like, really, you know, we're going to send our men and our women to die for something that we truly do not even know what the reason is. They tell us this, but really it's something completely different, you know?
Kind of like how we're just forking over billions to Ukraine. And
Right. We really don't know.
Yeah.
But if you go into that, it's because you truly like it, you know? So that's the great part about it. You know, when I was living on that base, let me tell you, some of these guys were like hardcore, diehard, like military, like they love it, like they don't care about dying, like that's what they live for. You know, that was their life calling. You know, when God called them upon to live, he was like, you are going to fight for your country. And they have a deep embedded, you know, conviction, like this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I'm going to die doing this. And that's why they're so good at doing it.
Yeah.
You know, these captains and these lieutenants, like, you know, that have served in the military for years, they've been leaders at wars, and they've overcome all the obstacles. You know, it's because it's ingrained in them, like, no, this is what I was born to do. So nothing gets in their way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 with the military, but
yeah, most definitely.
I'm still thankful for them, though.
Most definitely.
I'm still thankful for the military. So
of course, yeah, I would never discredit whatever they do over there for us.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, you said that the military helps you with problem-solving skills, and I think that's a big thing with entrepreneurship, because I think entrepreneurship is just being a professional problem solver. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I got from Choose Your Enemies Wisely was, instead of thinking with solutions, think in systems, because solutions are one-off things to solve the problem. Systems create something that's going to repetitively solve the issue over and over and over and over and over. That's one of the biggest takeaways that I think everyone should, you know, strive to create for themselves in their business, is not think in solutions when something pops up, but, you know, think in systems of, okay, what can I build? What can I automate that's going to take care of this over and over and over and over and over?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, the greatest, they all have systems in place. That's what makes them so successful. And I mean, I have not had my own business yet, but I have managed organizations. I've been a VPO director, and every time that we've had success in anything, it's because there is a system in place, or there was an obstacle because there was not a system in place. Mm-hmm. But because that system was not in place, we're able to identify that and say, okay, now we need to create something so that this doesn't happen again. One of the things also that I've realized in success when it comes to problem solving or having systems is that it's so good to look at history as well, right? Mm-hmm. The history of your organization, the history of your company. Those are the things that are going to identify and indicate, like, okay, what systems, what exact things do we need to put in place, because this is a recurring problem. Mm-hmm. So having that eye for that is also very essential.
Yeah.
What kind of business do you have?
So I run a credit repair and business funding consulting business. So I help entrepreneurs repair their credit and get business funding at 0%. So anywhere from 50 to up to 350,000 at 0%. And basically that's essential, because in order to start a business and truly scale it and bring in more revenue, you need capital. Mm-hmm. And to have 0% capital for 12 to 18 months is going to be the most advantageous, because you're not using any of your own money, you're not paying high interest, and you're not giving up equity for your own business that you want to start or scale. So, and a lot of business owners don't even know how to access those high limit business credit cards or lines of credit, so on and so forth. So, you know, when I was first starting off in entrepreneurship, I paid a mentorship to learn how to get business funding to start a trucking company. Mm-hmm. Well, the trucking company went to shit. The trucking industry was horrible. Mm-hmm. I lost 6 figures. It was just the worst time of my life. Mm-hmm. I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I couldn't go to sleep at night some nights. It was horrible. Then I took a step back, and I was doing credit repair as like my main source of income. I was like, why don't I just attach this, like the funding, and just, I know how to do it now. Let me just help others do it and create a business of that. So then I started doing that, and, you know, word of mouth and referrals. I started with one, did it for dirt cheap, and got that testimonial. They referred other people, and then it just snowballed. And I've never put any money into paid advertising until I'm about to start doing that literally next week. So
yeah, there comes a point where that is going to be, it's going to be required. When you started your business, did you have any capital?
So I started with the funding. So like the credit repair, I fixed my own credit, and then I just told people, hey, I'll do it at cost, blah, 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 to just get the traction going, know I can do it, get that proof of concept. But when I got the funding, I started the trucking company. I got like 109,000, and then I went into 117,000 in debt because the truck kept breaking down. Driver would
That's
leave.
the problem with those companies.
But the thing is, I went into business with someone that was managing it for me. So it was almost like an automation service, like e-commerce, stuff like that, but it was trucking automation. And I don't want to blame everything on them, but
kind of almost everything.
yeah. I mean, the industry itself wasn't doing good.
Right.
Brokers weren't paying well.
Was this after COVID or before?
This is right after COVID.
Oh, yeah.
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 So
when everything was Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was not fun. But I feel like they fell short on their promises of making things better. And I'm currently in a lawsuit with them trying to recoup some of the losses. But yeah, it was not fun.
Yeah. How did you feel when that business kind of just plummeted?
I was so determined because I'm not one to give up. So I was like, okay, maybe if I just put a little bit more money in, it'll just get back up and everything will be okay. And I just kept doing that for months. And I was like, it reached a point where it was like, I'm digging myself into a deeper hole month after month. My anxiety, my stress is through the roof. Like my barber was like, you got some gray hairs, man. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like, I couldn't sleep. It was affecting like my relationships with friends, family. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I just threw in the towel.
How many months after did you realize that?
It took me a while.
Okay.
It took
me
you're
resilient then.
Yeah, I'm not one to just give up. I like to make things like work. Like there's no plan B when I go off to set off and do something.
Are you a spiritual person?
I am.
Okay.
I didn't used to be. I used to be very agnostic. But if you watch one of the episodes, I go into what made me very spiritual.
You were brought to your knees, huh?
Well, I kind of was just woken up. There's and I'll touch on it a little bit, but my family's from Colombia. My father's from Colombia, and very like black magic and stuff like that exists.
Okay.
And I didn't believe, I believe there was a higher power. I didn't really believe in, God or whatever. So my family was going through something very troublesome. It was very, like everything was just going bad. Like financially, everything was just bad. So my dad, in a last-ditch effort, had a priest come to our home in Colombia, and our farm in Colombia, and bless and just everything. So he had a rosary wrapped around his arm, and he's recording it. So like my dad has the SD card. He showed me. The priest has a rosary around his arm. He's throwing holy water everywhere, and he's like blessing everything. Well, over a pillow in one of the rooms that, me and my family had slept on for years, the priest says there's something in here. So they open it up, and there's a severed penis inside with salts and money stuffed inside with a curse written on the money.
Wow.
So, and he found out it was like an ex that had went to a witch doctor and cursed him for his sex life, money, and everything like that.
She
Hence
was
the penis.
mad.
Yeah. So, seeing that.
What did your mom say about that?
She didn't know until I talked about it on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
So my dad didn't want her to know because he didn't want her to stress out and freak out. But and then they found a totem in our farm. Like the priest went to the farm, said dig here. There was like a totem or like a omelet or something like that, and they dispelled of those things. There was one more in the apartment, but they dispelled of all those things. And then the crazy thing was, before that, my mother had like something that they found in like an MRI that they thought was cancer. After they dispelled of all those things, that disappeared. And everything just kind of went like...
Yeah, the spell was broken.
Yeah.
Wow, that woman has power.
So, like, seeing the reality of the situation, like living it, and like seeing what happened, I was like, okay, so if the devil's real, so is God.
Absolutely.
So that's what kind of pushed me more towards faith. And, I was baptized Catholic, but I see myself as a devoted Christian.
Okay.
I don't read the Bible as much as I should, but I try and get in a few pages as much as possible and try and read. One of my mentors taught me to read Proverbs and gain wisdom as much as possible. So I'll reread Proverbs over and over and over and over.
Yeah, the Bible, what's good about the Bible is that it's literally a blueprint, right? And for anybody that's seeking spiritual guidance, the Bible is the blueprint, because if there's anything that God teaches us in the Bible is that you're going to suffer. You're going to face adversity. But I mean, all the greatest that he chose to be teachers and to utilize for anything that he needed for his projects were thieves, murderers, prostitutes, you know, the lowest of the lowest. And he's like, you know, he's going to show you, like, you're going to go through obstacles. You're going to face adversity. But if you have faith in me, you're going to overcome that. And then you're going to be in front of all those people that doubted you because of me. So I used to read the Bible a lot when I was in Germany. I've read the Bible from beginning to end. I don't read it the same as you as much as I should. However, I do listen to messaging from pastors on YouTube, just because it's good to refresh your memory on those things. Like, that messaging is so powerful when you hear it. And if you truly, like, because there's spirituality is aligned also, it's parallel to quantum physics, right? Metaphysics. It's an actual energetic thing. You know, physics is a branch of science. So sometimes that messaging that you want to listen to that day was specifically parallel to the situation that you're facing.
Yeah, that's crazy how that works.
It's crazy how that works. When you're truly in alignment with faith and you're really, like, seeking God that day, like, I need you to give me a message. I need you to tell me something, you know, and you open up your YouTube and it's like the first message, you know, you choose, and it's like, wow, that was so particular. That was, you know, especially for me. Thank you. Yeah. So that's why it's important to listen to messaging or to read the Bible or go to church or whatever people choose to do.
Yeah, I haven't been to church in while, but like every other Sunday or so, I'll just go on YouTube like you do, and then go put on like a Impact Church live session,
right?
Something like that, and then just kind of, because my brain's on 24/7, and I need a day to just turn it off and just be like present in the moment. And hearing those sermons that day and that specific time, what they're saying, it's like what I needed. And like you could feel the energy just impacting you internally.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy how the messaging and what you need to hear is exactly like intertwined.
Yeah, it triggers you to your next phase in life, or, you know, to the next thing that you have to do, and it gives you that power, that certainty that everything's going to be okay. So we're talking about how, you know, when your trucking business was kind of like diminishing and was falling apart. The reason why I asked about if you're spiritual is because, did you hear or feel an inner calling like, hey, Alejandro, let this go. Hey, you know, you're going to lose money, you know?
So, and I'm very careful about what I pray for now, because before I started the trucking company, I asked for strength and guidance and wisdom. And it was the most traumatizing like experience I've been through to date.
Right.
And I think that taught me
all the things you prayed for.
Yes.
For sure.
And like, that's why I'm very careful about what I pray for now, because do I want to go through that again? No. But I know it's what I needed to become the man I am today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So be careful what you pray for, people.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You know, it's whatever you say is what is done, you know, and it's in the Bible too. The Bible is the blueprint. Anything that anybody wants to know about manifesting, or what they call it nowadays, is literally that. You pray and you shall receive. So it's like you speak it and you receive it. It's the same thing as manifestation. So.
And one thing that's always repeated in the Bible is do not be afraid.
Right. Yeah. Because now you're contradicting. If you have faith and you believe, why are you so fearful?
Yeah.
You have to step into rooms as if God sent you there with that purpose, right? Because you know something that he's put in you, a seed, you know, a thought, an idea.
It's difficult though sometimes when you're going through worldly things. You're going through worldly experiences. You know, having faith is essential, but when you're experiencing the situations that you go through, it's hard to, for me at least, it was hard to just snap back into faith, because I'm experiencing like hell.
But do you know why that is?
No.
That's because you don't have a very strong relationship with source, because I can be facing anything, and I have faced adversity like how we all have, crazy moments. And I never deter away from what I know is meant for me, because I have that connection with inner self, with source, telling me, just follow me. Don't worry. You're going through it. Because we go through bad things because we make poor choices, right? We lack discernment in that moment. We're possibly, like the book, like Patrick Bet-David's book says, possibly in that moment, we were leading more and making choices more with what? Emotion versus logic.
Yeah.
Right? You have to balance those things out. You have to have that discernment of how am I going to utilize my logic and emotion in this situation to make the right decision. So when you're fearing or you have doubt for anything at all, it's because you're not giving yourself that quiet time, that space to pray, or if you want to call it meditate, or to connect to that voice inside of you, because that's what source is. And I can guarantee you, if you are a good person, if you are a sound person with a sound mind, and you have pure intentions, you do good in the world, that voice is going to come back and talk to you and say, I promise you everything is going to be all right, because God is going to guide you. But there are certain things that now you have to learn, because you made a decision that impacted your path. You made a decision that impacted your journey. Maybe it wasn't the right decision. So now God is like, okay, guess what? Now you have to go through this, because cause and effect. Newton's third law, right? Again, going back to physics. Cause and effect. This was the cause. This is the effect. Now we've got to go through it. But don't lose faith. So yeah, it is hard. It is hard sometimes. But again, if you're connected to that source, the actual physicality part of it will be, it will be challenging. But you can do it with grace. If you have that connection to God internally, you can do it with grace, because you're like, man, this is at least how I do it, how I've done it. I'm going through everything, but I'm still laughing. I'm still having fun. I'm kind of still like, humorous about things, and oh my God, it's okay to, more stoic,
Right. Yeah. And, it takes a lot for me to get emotionally moved by something. Like, so I'm very like laid back, relaxed, and it takes a lot to get me angry or emotional.
Yeah, I see that in you.
But there's certain things where it's hard for me to, I'm trying to think of like situations. There's certain situations that are difficult for me to control that. Trying to
control the emotion.
So like in most situations, it's very easy for me to just keep a level head.
Okay.
But I'm not trying to put too much out there. But yeah, in certain situations, I'll lose like control of like how situations affect me, and then I'll stay in like a funk, and I don't know how to
transition it.
Right. Because like yesterday we were shooting, and Sebastian was like, I don't even want to post this because it's just on your face. Like I just had a shitty morning, but I just couldn't remove myself from it. So how would you kind of advise me on how to get past that?
So what I do is, there was times where I would do the news live, and I would have the hardest day, or just, as a woman, women are more emotional. So just imagine you men, how like you're a little more stoic, level-headed with emotions. Women tend to get triggered a little bit more. So those days where I would not want to do anything, or I was more emotional than other days, for me, I don't know why, and perhaps maybe this is why I was in drama, I was good at acting. It's just a decision. I would just tell myself. But not everybody has that ease to be able to do that. I think it's a practice. You have to practice doing that for somebody that it doesn't come naturally to. For me, that's always come natural since I was a little girl. So I just decide in my mind, like, okay, that's it. Now I'm going to go on camera. That's it, you're fine. And then it's just that decision. I execute on that decision and on that belief, right? I make myself believe that. And then that's what it is. But also, remember, as the greatest philosophers say, things are the way they are and how you feel because you are giving meaning to that. So if you take away the meaning that you're perceiving that has, it has no effect, right? And you can't apply that like for every little thing because then you're a robot, right?
Yeah.
But when you have to stand on business and you have to get something done and you need to do things throughout the day and you need to subtract your emotions from that, that's one of the things that I practice. I say, why am I giving this meaning to that? Like, does it really have that meaning to me?
Mm-hmm.
Does it really mean that?
Yeah, and I've noticed it just kind of came up recently because I've never been affected by like anything ever.
You're a pretty cool, laid back guy.
Yeah, it's I've always been like that, but just recently, I guess, giving trust into different people for my business, so on and so forth. Like that's what held me back from scaling. Was I wanted to have my business to where like everything is upheld to my standards. Like when a client communicates, like I want to be there like that and be able to voice their, like, take care of the concerns, help them get from A to B as quickly as possible and make sure it's like a white glove service. Everything's as clean and smooth as possible. So like trusting other people was very difficult for me. But then I finally found a partner that was able to do that with, but it's still not going to be me and like up to my level. So I think part of me like stresses out about that and like other things, but I know I need to stop working in the business and then start working on the business. Like I need to be an owner. I don't need to be the business. So I started making that differentiation. Yeah. And then, but I don't know. It's just recently it's been like.
Well, remember, going back to the book, since we're highlighting Patrick's book, this all comes down to, again, choosing your right enemy. So if there's anything that's provoking some kind of emotion in you that's making you feel uncomfortable or that's triggering you in some way, that would be a good reason to say, okay, this situation or this person has now become my enemy. This is my fuel now. This person triggered me to, the beast in me is going to come out now. So that should be enough. That should be sufficient enough for me, at least. I can only speak for myself, to level out my emotions and say, now I'm thinking strategically. Now that emotion is being converted to logic. Because, right, when somebody hurts you what is the first thing you think in your mind? Yeah. As a natural human being, you're thinking strategy. You're thinking, how am I going to show this person? How am I going to prove? Or you don't want to be so hyper-focused either and obsessed with proving that one person wrong, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is to do it for you and your family. But that is a key indicator as well that you want to succeed. It's a key factor, right? Because you're like, I'm going to do this for me and my family because we want to live a comfortable life. I want to get this business done. I want to get all the success. Okay. But I'm about to prove these people wrong. Yeah. Right? So taking that emotion that you were feeling and that level of, that you're not concentrating or unfocused, and then converting that to logic to then take steps to create a business plan, create that strategy. Right. And so that's, I think, very helpful from what Patrick advises people to do. Right.
And who would you say your enemy is?
My enemy, I would say certain people in my family. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the case for so many people. Not many people voice that. They're not vocal about it. But those certain people that tell you that you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that, or maybe they have envy in you, certain cousins that, they've secretly envied you. And like Patrick says, flattery is a form that the enemy uses as a tactic. No, you look great like that. No, you don't need to do that. No, because, you don't need to do this because you're so perfect. You're so beautiful. You're so smart. You're so whatever. Yeah. Right? Because they want to keep you at a plateau. They want you to keep you there and in control. So I would say, certain people in my family. What about you?
So I was actually thinking about this a lot with the audiobook, and I had to really look within. And I think it's my parents' friends. Okay. Because I was a wild child growing up. I did a lot of stupid stuff, and they witnessed all of it. And they did not have a lot of faith in me being who I am today. And just recently, I remember going to it was my father's birthday dinner. They all came. Like, oh, what are you doing now, bud? Just give me like the little stuff like that. And how's
that little thing going?
Yeah, exactly. And I want to make my father so proud of the man that I am and the man that he raised, that I just want to prove all of them wrong, you know? And that, you know, that in itself is what drives me. And it's stupid because, like, they're just his friends and stuff like that. But I don't know why. It just fucking puts a fire under my ass.
No. But that's one of the things that the book, you know, touches up on. Although it's not the most important thing to think like that, like, because it, like you said, it's kind of dumb, you know, like, why do I care about my parents' friends?
Yeah.
It's not that you have to care about them or really, but they give you fuel.
Yeah.
You're just utilizing them and converting that emotion to fuel. That's why it's important to choose them wisely and to be able to identify them.
Yeah.
Because then when you come, I would have been like, oh my God, like, I'm here at dinner. These people are on me. I can't stand. You know what? I need to get up and go. I have a business plan to write. Thank you. Now I know why I came to this dinner.
Yeah. And how did you,
I can't stand you guys. I need to go.
Yeah. How did you get in, like, connected with Patrick and Adam and them?
So, okay, well, there's so many different people that just happen to be tied into Valuetainment and Patrick. I recently started connecting with his sister at PHP, which is his life insurance company. I recently started training with them as well because I do that on the side also. But then I also have friends that have been on the podcast that they have their own tequila.
Okay.
Their own brand of tequila. And she just happened to know everybody there. And they just started talking about me. And just so many different people that know Adam and everybody else there that I was just invited onto the podcast because of that. So, yeah, you know, you never know. It's crazy because when you leave a certain phase in your life, it's like you're being required to leave that phase. You don't want to, right? Because it's painful. You're familiar with everything there.
Yeah.
You know, you did so good for all those people there. And, you know, now you're facing this huge life transformation. And God is basically telling you, you know, you have no idea what's coming up next.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you so scared to move forward if you don't even know the plan that I have for you?
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, yeah, but how? I don't know this person. I don't know that. And it all shows up gradually. It all shows up. That's why it's so important. Like the Bible, again, blueprint moment. Believe like a child. A child is always happy. It's like, they're always happy because they're like, I know I'm going to be fed today. I know my mom is going to clean. I know I'm going to be tucked in bed. I know. They're just always happy. So if you have fun while you're waiting for that thing, you go through the process with grace. And the transition is so much more enjoyable. You know, like, we give suffering meaning.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened. I had no idea what I was coming into. I had actually been hired to go on to the Dr. Drew show. You know Dr. Drew?
Yeah, I've heard of
Okay, so things fell apart with that. I was going to be his correspondent. Things fell apart with that. And that's actually what propelled me and guided me to PHP. Had I gotten that job with Dr. Drew, I would have never been at PHP because I would have been like, I don't need to go do life insurance.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be traveling and being a correspondent for Dr. Drew, writing, articulating, you know. So again, things fall apart so that something else that's more aligned with you comes into play.
Yeah, and you'll never know how it's going to happen or who's going to allow it to you know, be a smoother transition. Because I've had my plan, my vision, like, broken down and rewritten. Not the vision, but like the path has been broken down and rewritten a million times. You know, I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do when I was growing up, but I knew I wanted more out of life. And when I was doing, you know, blue collar work, AC and stuff like that, I was just like, this can't be it. This is not what I'm destined for. Like, and I just took that jump, that leap of faith. I had no idea what I was going to do. I ended up meeting some guy. I fixed his AC in like 10 minutes. And he had a beautiful house, beautiful car, beautiful wife, nice, like, whole family, everything like that. And we just sat and talked for like 2 hours on the job. He was a health insurance guy. And one day when I was just fed up with AC, I said, fuck this. I'm going to do health insurance. then like I was doing health insurance. And I was like, there's got to be more to this. Like, I know insurance is like, life insurance, and I started researching infinite banking. And then so I left there, went to another life insurance company, but they were like captive and they only had a specific product and the commissions were shit. So, but I did very well at that. And then I was like, I got to find another route. And then I found a different agency that could actually structure infinite banking policies the way I want to. And then I was making good money, and I wanted to start a business to where I could retire my family. So then I got the trucking business started. And
but you know what? And what I'm gathering from what you're telling me, which is what most people go through, the clarity of the vision is the most important thing. And I think that anybody that writes a book that is successful, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, everybody, the vision, the clarity of the vision is very important. The how it's going to happen, that we have to be a little bit lenient with, because obviously there's one thing that we know, we are in control, but we're not really in control, right? Because there's a higher power, there's a God. So sometimes we say no because we're in control, and God will humble us and say, hey, I'm the boss here, not you.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as you have that clarity and you know how to relax a little in certain things, again, there's that factor of discernment, right? How do I know when to take control? How do I know when to lead? How do I know when to lay back and see, how things are lining up for me, right? So those experiences that led you to one thing to another, that led you to, it was what I call connector factors, right? Those are moments like that connect the dots for your next big gig, or to make your vision a reality. So it's not that you were really going to do air conditioning forever. It's not really that you were going to do trucking forever. But all these things lined up in the way that they did because it provoked that next thought, like, hey, I don't want to do this, but for some reason I had to experience this to give me this idea, or to go into this next endeavor or into this next path. Right? But I think the clarity is so important because it makes the process so much easier. When there's indecisiveness, it's like you're in a maze.
Yeah.
You don't know which way to go. So the first step is to make that vision as clear as possible, because although you're going to face adversity, you know which way you're going already.
Yep.
So it's like nothing can deter you from that. I want to build an iPhone. Okay. That's what it's going to come to. That's the end goal. I'm going to get there. Now, the obstacle, on that path, what is that going to look like? I have no idea, but that's what it's going to be. Versus somebody where it's like, yeah, I know that I want to lead people. And it's like, okay, but you need to have a strategic plan,
clarity,
right?
and certainty in what you want. And one of the things that literally changed my life and helped with that vision was, hardcore closer Ryan Stewman?
Yes.
So I was listening to his podcast one day, and he has this visual training where he goes, all right, close your eyes. And close your eyes, look to your right, and envision the most elite version of yourself. What do they wear? How do they talk? Who do they know? What do they eat? Everything to the pinpoint of a detail. And like, I envisioned that.
Show up as that.
And I had to act as if until it was. Almost like, not fake it till you make it, but like, I had to rebrand myself because I was known as the alcoholic that got drunk every weekend. But
well, you're basically redesigning your identity, right?
Exactly.
And that's what it requires for any type of change in anybody.
Exactly.
You have to restructure your whole entire identity. And those people that are like, no, this is just the way I am. Obviously it's, they're lazy and they don't want to do the work to change, but it's really just shifting that.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you something. What would you do? Because I was asked this question a couple of days ago and I had a great answer just because I had already been through that. But let's say everything was taken from you. And your whole entire, or the things that made up your identity, all that was taken away from you. Who would you be?
That's good. So all the experiences that it was just gone, or like
all the work you've done, all your money, all your material things.
Oh, material things?
Yes.
But not the experiences.
Not the experiences. You would still have your knowledge. You would still have your experience.
I would just get right back to it. I would just fucking start.
No, but who would you be? Not what would you do. Who would you be?
I would still be the same individual. I don't think of materialistic things as like who I am. I think it's the experiences that I went through that molded me into the man I am, because I don't drink, I don't smoke anymore. I don't do any of that stuff. And I used to like live a lifestyle that was centered around those things. I used to hang out with very, very, very bad people that did very, very bad things, but I don't anymore. I'm very, go to the gym, work, go to the gym, work, all day, every day. That's
Yeah, you shifted to a holistic lifestyle.
yeah, grass-fed steaks, all that stuff like that. I, I subscribe to that now, and that's who I am and what I want my 20, 30 children to live. You know what I mean? And I'm the last one in my family bloodline to carry on the bloodline. So I want as many, many, many children as possible. And I want them to carry on what I've learned and what I've built for generations. And I think that, as long as I make the world a little bit better before I leave, and then I have my offspring to carry on, I think that'll be it. I think I'll die happy.
Yeah, I thought that question was very interesting because although it's very easy to say, in practice, in reality, if somebody think of those people that have mansions, 8 cars, yachts, everything. Their identity, how they identify themselves in the world is through that reputation, right? So you think and you say, or people that have all these degrees, right? These doctors, these physicists, people that, that work for NASA, that they don't pride themselves on money, but they pride themselves on, their academia, oh, I'm, this physics and, I created the rocket or whatever. Imagine if those people, that identity was stripped from them. It's a thought-provoking question because it really makes you think about your character as a person. How virtuous are you? Is money truly influencing you to become the person you are supposed to be? Or is your degree, are you hiding behind your degree? So all these things that we consider to be so valuable in the 3D takes us all the way back again to the most powerful thing, which is the 5D, which is the soul. So one of the things that Patrick, which I asked Jets at this the last time, he was talking about business, right? And the last 3 things that you should always ask yourself at the end of, the year when you're closing up, right? So the 3 things is in what 3 areas did you excel in this year? What were the 3 areas that we need work? And what do you think you need to do in order to address those areas and or skill deficiencies?
I think I learned.
And it's so appropriate because we're doing this and it's almost the end of the year.
Yeah. I think patience, because I'm a very impatient person, but I've been put in situation after situation that forced me into patience. Something that I need to get better at is, I think, faith.
Okay.
And I think I just need to spend more time with God. I think I'll have time with him, but I won't dedicate enough time with him. And I think having more faith and more time dedicated to that specifically will allow me to remove the anxiousness as I'm going through business. And, because, business is war. And I feel like I'm going into battle every single day. There's always new issues that come up. But having a little bit more faith that he's guiding me in the right direction will alleviate some of that stress. And I'll get less gray hairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's kind of, sometimes it's boring, to be completely direct. Prayer and meditation can be boring if you're not really doing it with the direction that you're supposed to be doing it. So if you're not really sure why you're going into meditation or prayer, it can be a little boring, but definitely practicing that all the time. And people think that you have to like go into meditation or prayer, like be, like all serious, and it's really just a conversation, like asking your inner self, asking your higher self, like, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? What is the next step? But yeah, I think that faith is something that's always going to make you more successful because it grounds your emotions. It gives you clarity of mind. So the other two questions, what do you think you can do to improve the things that you haven't worked on?
That I haven't worked on.
What are the areas that you think requires you to level up those deficiencies, those things that you fall short on? Do you even know what those things are first? Because we have to identify that first.
I think I need to spend more time auditing where I'm falling short. And I spoke with a friend. Like, I need an audit day. Just literally spend the whole day auditing every decision, how I make those decisions, what decisions are positive, negative, which ones are going to allow me to exceed. And I just need an audit day. So I wish I had an answer for you, but I think I need more
No,
time.
I think that's an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I need
you
a
identified
day.
it yourself.
Yeah. So once I do that, I'll be able to know exactly what to pinpoint and work on.
Okay. Is this your passion, what you're doing now? Is it your dream?
My dream is to retire my father, because when I was growing up, he was never home. He was always working. He was always trying to put food on the table. And he supports my family in Colombia. He supports my family here. Like, he's just a giver. And I want to give him his time back. So, like, that's my dream, is to make sure that he's taken care of and I have that time with him before he passes. But I also want to build a life to where I'm not always away from my future children. I want to work, and I want to be disciplined, and I want to be ambitious and change the world for the better. But I also want to have that time with them. So I want to build a business and an empire to where I have that time to be able to spend with them and give that love and that nurturing, but also the knowledge that I've learned, and pass it on to them.
Would you want your kids to be in business with you?
I want them to do whatever they want to do,
Okay.
but I want them to be the best at it. So if they want to, I mean, to a certain degree, I don't want them to be trans or fucking
Right.
that shit. So, but I want them to.
Let's just clarify.
Yeah. I'm very conservative, and I don't want any of that nonsense shit. But I want them to be whatever they want to do and be, and I want them to be the best at it. But I want them to have the same principles that I've learned, learned through blood, sweat, and tears. And I still think that they need to go through certain things on their own to understand those lessons. But that's what I envision. I just want a bunch of little Alejandros running around the world changing lives.
Nice. I think that's a very good vision and a good passion. And we definitely need more of that, leaders that have children that can impact those children to create that change also. There's so many parents that they don't even pay attention to their children. And that's why we have the situation that we have in our schools, in our nation, because parents are also involved so highly in social media that what do they do to calm their child down? They just give them the iPad. They don't really talk to them anymore. They don't really teach them to lead or, think or pretty much do anything. It's just, again, technology is a catch-22, but yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And what about you?
My dream, I'm living my dream and my passion.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's my charity foundation because I love children. I think that there's a huge need for mental health and education for children, for sure. And I would like to help those underdeveloped families that maybe those families do want their children to succeed and they do want their children to come out on top, but they don't come from the best financial background or the best financial situation. So my charity would have an emphasis on helping those underdeveloped financially families and those children. Even in private schools, I have friends that have children in private schools, and they put their children in private schools because they want the best education for their children, but they're middle-class Americans. They even need help with their children as well. So I would want to impact that population. So yeah, I am living the dream.
What's the name of your charities, and where can people find it?
Noble and Ness Foundation, and it's on my Instagram, official Janelle Baez.
Awesome.
I just started it 3 months ago, so I'm in the middle of getting investors and capital for it. And of course, that's going to require, you know, a board of directors, attorney fees, all that stuff. So charity organizations is a lot of work. You need a big team, but we're living the dream one day at a time.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, Janelle, it was great to have you on. I think we're running a little bit late on time, but yeah, it was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you, Alejandro.
3 books that you would recommend. I know that one's going to be one of them, but what are 2 other ones that you would recommend to
Think
people?
and Grow Rich for sure, and Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, that's a good
Meditations is my favorite book by far. I read it 4 years ago. Completely changed the way that I do business, the way I interact with my family and with society, just because it teaches you to be a leader and to be very humble while leading. You're going to attract a lot more people like that. And of course, Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David, just because we all need a strategy to excel in our businesses.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Alrighty, guys. Peace.